Here you go, bro.
Welcome to another edition of 22MW. My name's Tony. I'm coming to you from EBK Studios today. I'm joined by Superfan Kyle. What's up, Kyle?
How's it going, Tony? Glad to be back again.
Glad to have you. And my brother Kurtis. So guys, any updates on the status of Tyler Mane?
Still alive.
Still alive, I think. Yeah, still alive.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. So, I really wanted to figure out why I thought that.
Wait.
I looked,
Not just why you thought that.
Hold
You're
on.
super douchey about it.
Let me talk. Just let me talk, okay? So I wanted to figure out why I thought that, because I was a little douchey about it. So I've been way douchier in my lifetime and on this show. So I went and I looked at every person that's ever been in an X-Men movie of any significance to find out who maybe I was thinking of. And it turns out that these movies are a really good way to stay alive. According to the Wikipedia page, the only person to have died is the person that played Pyro in the original one, and he died in 1915. So I think that's a mislink. So I think everyone's alive. So I don't know. Whatever. Sorry. I try and come with stuff I know, and I don't know. I wish I could figure out why I thought that, but I did.
You were pretty confident about it.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's better to be incorrect that way than the other way, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, why did they recast him? Or why did they recast him? And turns out that he was dead, so that's why they recast him. So
I'm all about Tyler Mane. I love the guy.
he was a good Sabretooth.
Top two for sure. All right, so up first from 2009, directed by Gavin Hood, starring Hugh Jackman, Liev Schreiber, Danny Huston, Ryan Reynolds, Dominic Monaghan, Taylor Kitsch, Will.i.am. It's called X-Men Origins Wolverine. So this would be, technically X-Men 4, the fourth installment, but this one goes back. And this movie doesn't start out with it, but really quick it has like this montage of Wolverine and Sabretooth fighting in all these different wars. And I really love that part of this movie. And that's where my love for this movie ends. Everything in this movie is done poorly. It's not well acted. It's not well written. It builds suspense around multiple things that won't occur. It builds suspense around a death of Wolverine, but that's not going to happen. It even builds suspense around will he not reset his memory, but that's going to happen too. So one of those is bad enough, but there's two of them in this. Hugh Jackman's serviceable, but this movie is just a pile of crap. I can't believe it's 38% from the critics of Rotten Tomatoes. This is not a good movie. It doesn't even look good. There's like this one shot of Gambit and Wolverine like skipping almost. Like it's just a really weird shot. I mean, but it fits in with this movie perfectly. And I do want to talk about Taylor Kitsch real quick. I love Friday Night Lights. I think Tim Riggins is a great character. I think Taylor Kitsch does an awesome job as him. But that doesn't translate to him playing Gambit, a character that people have been crying for about 10 years in these movies at that point. He's not good. The way they shoot him and he does all these like goofy flips and stuff look terrible. Just a complete miss with Gambit. And again, it was a character a lot of people loved and wanted to see done well, and complete miss.
Speaking of the characters, I think almost every single character in this, besides maybe Wolverine, missed their mark completely. It's just, I couldn't agree with you more, Tony. It's just awful how, and here I am reading the comic books and I have an idea of what these characters should be, and they completely take it the wrong way. Taking the Merc with a mouth and sewing his mouth shut is one of the worst ideas you could possibly have amongst the millions of other ideas they had with Deadpool in this movie. We've seen Deadpool done right with the Deadpool movie, and this movie actually, it really makes me angry, honestly, being a comic book fan, a fan of these characters, and how poorly they did these characters. Victor Creed, I like Liev Schreiber in a lot of things. I've seen him in a lot of movies, and he can be a good actor, but this movie, it was awful, and the special effects were awful. Every relationship that they had didn't make any sense. They would go to where they were happy with each other, and then the next minute they're upset with each other, and then they're happy with each other for no apparent reason. And this is just awful.
And another weird casting for me was Will.i.am.
Yeah. What is he doing?
That's a bold casting, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't. It's not even like he's trying to not be Will.i.am. It's just like this guy's hanging with Wolverine. Yesterday, I saw him hanging with Fergie and Apple and Taboo. What the crap is this? It just not well done. It just seems like, hey, this guy's somewhat popular. Let's put this guy in this movie, even though he's not an actor and he doesn't fit in. It's I don't know, bad.
Is he still worthy of that though? I mean, I didn't know Will.i.am was that popular. You know, like was he going to draw that crowd or something? Or
I mean, you're so 2000 and late, you don't get it. Kyle,
oh, that's true. That's true. I am behind the times.
I mean, at that time, I think they were fairly popular. I think they did the Super Bowl within 5 years of that, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah. All right, Kurtis.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I kind of forgot. Originally, I hadn't seen this in a while, but originally I kind of included this with X-Men 3 Last Stand or whatever it's called. That I didn't think it was as bad as people said. This movie is really bad. It's awful. It doesn't make, kind of what you guys said, nothing anyone does make sense. It reminded me a lot of a James Bond movie where James Bond goes here and gets in a fight and does some talking, and then he goes to some other place and does a fight and gets into a fight and does some talking. Then he goes to another place, and half the time you don't even really know how he got to where he's going, either because the movie didn't really tell you, or you're so bored out of your mind you stop paying attention. And he just keeps going to different places, and nothing really happens. There's no payoff for anything. You already know everything's going to happen, like you said, Tony. The only interesting thing is that I rented this on Google Play because I had Google Play balance and need to watch it, so I rented it on Google Play. And I found out, I didn't know this, when you pause movies on Google Play, it puts circles around the actors' faces and tells you the name of the actor. And I didn't know that, so I just kind of played with that during the movie to see like when it would. It took me like 2.5 hours to watch this movie because I kept pausing it to see. I didn't know, so I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know if it was using like facial recognition, and when they would turn their face from the camera, it wouldn't show up. But the second they turned back toward the camera, it would show up. It was obviously too quick to be live, but I think like they run it through the facial recognition and then upload that. I don't know. That part of it was kind of cool playing with that.
Did they ever like mistakenly cast Tyler Mane as
No,
Sabretooth?
it always sounded like Schreiber, so it always appeared to be correct. I never caught it being wrong. There were a couple of times where I thought maybe I could trick it or something, and if it didn't know, it didn't guess. So it was pretty cool that. But that's really the most interesting thing I have to say about this movie. It's That opening scene is really awesome where they fight all the wars. It's even more kind of interesting that Wolverine was at Normandy, and then you find out later that a year later he was at the dropping of the bomb in Nagasaki. So I mean,
that's interesting, huh?
Those were about a year apart. I guess after he got out of the army, he joined the Marine Corps and went and fought in the. I don't know what he was doing over there, but. He really when there's a war, Wolverine likes to be in it, huh? So
he's a soldier.
Yeah. So
he knows lots of people with their own planes too, so that helps.
That scene where he walks away from the explosion it's almost comical, right? Like you want to laugh at it. So it looks like something that would be in a parody movie. Right,
so cliche, yeah.
I mean, you still see that happen and look terrible. I remember I was really enjoying The Equalizer until that happened, and even that, it just it was like, oh god, I can't believe they're doing that. This was actually funny. Like I actually laugh out loud when I see that scene because it is so comical. How cliche it is. It looks like something that they would do on South Park or Saturday Night Live or something. It's so just walking away in slow motion with the music. Oh god, it's so terrible.
Yeah,
I mean they even did it in Iron Man the year before this. So I mean, yeah, a lot of people fall victim to that cliche.
Yeah, but some can pull it off and some can't, and it didn't pull it off in this one.
That kind of brings me to just something that blows my mind about this movie and X-Men Last Stand that I didn't bring up was how bad his claws look. They literally look like they were drawn on with color pencil.
Get this guy some prosthetic claws. I mean, come on, how hard is that?
I read somewhere that they went through like just dozens and dozens of pairs of real claws for X-Men 1. And then by X-Men 3 in this movie, we just like when he's in that old couple's bathroom.
It was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit type cartoons.
Yeah, they look pretty terrible.
Yeah, he cleaned. Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, terrible. All right, let's rate this. What do you got, Kyle?
I'm gonna give it what the makers of the movie gave, and I'm gonna give it 1 black-eyed pea.
I'm gonna give it 1 Tyler Mane out of 5.
It's definitely 1 out of 5. This is really bad.
All right, up next from 2011, directed by Matthew Vaughn, starring James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Kevin Bacon, Nicholas Hoult, January Jones, Lucas Till, Rose Byrne, Oliver Platt, Zoe Kravitz, Hugh Jackman, and Jennifer Lawrence is in there as well. It's called X-Men First Class. So now we're taking a huge step back here to kind of see the origin of Xavier getting mutants together and setting up, his school. For some reason, I had no interest in seeing this in theater. Like, I don't know. I've always liked superhero movies, but I just was kind of done with this franchise at that point. I just was like, nah, not going to see it. How about you, Kyle? Did you see this?
Yeah, actually, I did see this in the theater, surprisingly enough. But
yeah, that is.
This movie, I remember it being a lot better than what I thought this time, though. I think before I had some sort of nostalgia with the characters and things like that I don't know. They did some things right in this movie, some things wrong. Was this supposed to originally be a reboot of this series, or was this...
So I tried to look that up to see, because that's what I had always heard. But that opening scene almost tells me it's not. The Magneto stuff is almost like a shot-for-shot recreation of the opening of X-Men.
But I mean, we've seen Uncle Ben die a couple times, so I mean, there's no.
Yeah, but that was the very beginning of that movie and the very beginning of this movie. I don't know.
It was close, yeah.
I've always read that they intended it to restart and then change their minds, like either halfway through filming it or shortly after it was over. They kind of changed their minds, but then originally they did start with like, this is all new franchise. I mean, and a lot of things in the script obviously don't really jive with the other movies. Him getting shot in the back and the whole beast. I mean, they've tried to retcon some of them and things like that over the course of especially in Days of Future Past, but I think they started out to make this a whole new franchise with its own continuity, and then kind of changed their mind because they really like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
They redid Moira McTaggart because she was in The Last Stand, and then they redid Emma Frost, which was in the previous movie we just rated, the X-Men Origins Wolverine. So I wish that they would have kept it as a reboot instead of trying to mash it into the rest of these, because now it's just like we don't even care about time and age and things like that. We just gotta
they've completely given up on that.
They just said whatever, and they do that in the comics too, so I mean, I guess I can give it a pass. And with this movie being it was an okay movie, so I think I can give it enough of a pass.
I remember liking this movie better than I liked it this time. This movie looks terrible. This is easily the worst looking CGI-wise movie.
Right.
Emma Frost is... I don't even know how you get past concept with that. You just go okay, this character doesn't work on the big screen. Let's leave her out. And I think she's one of the 4 horsemen in this new movie coming up, right? So she's going to have a much more prominent role, but hopefully they can do that a little better.
Is she one of the 4 horsemen? I don't know.
Psylocke, Magneto, Storm, and I think it's maybe I'm wrong.
It should be Angel. Angel should be the other one.
Angel, yeah. Okay, so it's not good. Good. That's really good news.
Yeah.
Y'all just made me super happy.
Especially since this is 1960s Emma Frost, and then it's going to be 90s Emma Frost, so she should be pretty
80s.
Old by then, right?
Yeah. They show Cyclops in this movie, for a second, and he's a little kid, and he looks like he's 6 months old.
His brother, too, so.
Yeah, which his brother is the new MacGyver, Curtis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's MacGyver. And he does look pretty good with the mullet. I saw the trailer for the show. He looks pretty good with the mullet. I have to take that back. But still looks like a crap show.
But I'll tell you what I did like about this movie. Obviously, Michael Fassbender is an amazing Magneto. So I think that was the best part overall with this movie. The end with the missiles coming in, he stops them and turns around. Yeah, I thought that was an awesome scene. But
yeah, they made him a pimp. He's a bad dude.
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender is awesome. Like, this kind of made me believe that he can make that Assassin's Creed movie passable.
yeah, we'll see about that. Video game movies are usually pretty awful. So
Yeah, no doubt about that. What do you think about this movie, Curtis?
I had the exact same thought that you guys both did, that I didn't think this was as good watching it this time as I thought it is. And I've seen this maybe fourth or fifth time I've seen it. I still thought it was pretty solid, but it wasn't as good as I remember. I did go see this in the theater toward the end of the run. I don't think I saw Last Stand. I definitely didn't see Wolverine Origins in the theater, but for some, I want to say this was like 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. It got rave reviews. It's like, oh, I'll go check it out. And I really liked it. And going back, it's just kind of okay. I remember the first time I saw it, all that stuff that happened at the end on the island with the Russians and the missiles, I thought that was so awesome. And this time it's just kind of like, yeah, that was all right. I don't know. It just doesn't hold up for me.
That part still held up for me. The part that didn't hold up, that I the first time remember thinking like, wow, that actually kind of worked, was when they sat around and they come up with names for each other. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's pretty true to life. Like, you get a group of alpha males and females sitting around, they'll start showing off. And,
oh yeah,
and it kind of worked. And this time it came off a little hokey,
Yeah.
especially when she's like, we decided you could be Professor X and Magneto. I don't know.
yeah. They were coming up with, well, actually, I don't know. I've been in situations like that where you're coming up with nicknames for somebody else and stuff like that. Usually you don't just come out and tell them whenever you see them after you've blown up an entire room and stuff. But
Right. You usually will just work it into a conversation later where you're kind of making fun of them and saying it to somebody that was in the room initially, and they're like, haha, remember we were calling him Professor X?
Right, yeah. And that's another thing with the names too, though, in the room. They shouldn't come up with their own names. It should be somebody else coming up with their name. It's like giving yourself a nickname. It just doesn't.
It's douchey.
Yeah, you'd be like, I'm going to call myself Darwin. Like, come on, man.
It's essentially saying an actor died before the premiere of a movie when he's still alive 15 years later.
And then when someone else says, I don't think that's true, promptly dismissing them as if they have no clue what they're talking about and that you're 100% correct. Just because they dared question.
My bad.
I do love Michael Fassbender too, though. I've raved about him so many times, though. Again, no one will ever convince me after seeing him in 12 Years a Slave that he doesn't actually really hate black people. I'll never not believe it.
Even the fact that he started dating Zoe Kravitz on the set of this movie. Okay.
There's no one's that good an actor. I mean, Magneto in general in these movies is just a really complex character that you can really swing back and forth on, kind of like Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones. You hate him one minute, you love him the next. You know, he has a lot of good points, but sometimes he can just get really full of himself and take it too far. But I like both of the actors who play him. Obviously, both of them are great actors, so that probably helps. But I love that part of this movie. The scene where they go around recruiting the mutants was kind of fun. I mean, this is still pretty good. It's worth watching, but it wasn't as good as I remembered. I think it's because Days of Future Past is so much better.
Yeah, but without this movie, we probably wouldn't have got Days of Future Past. So there you go. I'm going to give this 3 Tyler Maines out of 5.
All right, I'm going to give it 3 Cuban missiles out of 5.
A 3 out of 5. Have we rated every single
so far?
That's 5 for 5 that we've all given the exact same rating.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty consistent with these movies, though. I mean, I don't know. We're pretty well agreed on most of the stuff with these movies, but.
Well, maybe not. I think y'all had not seen this.
I'd
next one, right?
never seen this one before.
I'd never seen
Watched
it
yesterday for the first time.
Yeah, and the reason I didn't see it is because of the X-Men Origins Wolverine. So I'm a fool me once kind of guy. So
From 2013, directed by James Mangold, starring Hugh Jackman, Famke Janssen, and I'm just gonna say two of the Asian names I could actually pronounce: Brian Yi and Will Yun Lee. It's called The Wolverine, and why don't you start us out, Kurtis?
This is one of the most. It's not bad, but it's one of the most boring superhero movies I've ever seen. I literally have no notes on this movie. I didn't think one thing that happened in this movie was worth jotting down or even really talking about. I don't. What's the point here? I don't have a ton to say about this movie. It just really didn't do anything. It introduces this character that you've never met before. That you meet him in that opening scene in Nagasaki when you find out, of course, Wolverine was there because he was at every point in history apparently that mattered. He was probably at the Declaration of Independence signing and all that stuff too.
All right, so let me ask you this real quick then, while you're on that topic. So I had this thought, and then I realized they contradicted each other. When I watched X-Men Origins, I was like, this is really sad that they try to put all these other characters in there and not let Wolverine kind of stand alone on his own. And then in this movie, they do exactly that. And I honestly kind of don't think either works particularly well.
yeah, he's not that good standalone, and I don't know. It's not that good whenever he's the main focus. This movie, I was actually surprised at how much I did like it, though, considering what I thought of X-Men Origins Wolverine. I think this isn't a very good comic book movie, but maybe it's an okay action movie.
For me, anytime like a sequel like instantly like leaves the country and kind of tries to do like you just feel like they're going to do a fish out of water story, I instantly kind of cringe and go like, oh,
yeah,
they're desperate. Like, how could they not have a decent story to tell with this guy? So I don't really like that aspect of it, the way they went, but just given the way they went, I actually think certain parts of this movie aren't incredibly boring. Some of it is. There's a long stretch of it that was very, very boring. But like that subway scene,
I like
was
that
like
too.
pretty exhilarating. And then there's also like I talked about how bad X-Men Origins looks cinematically. This movie looked really good. Everything was framed really well. Everything looked really neat. Just some really, really sharp-looking imagery in this movie, which, was fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought the Silver Samurai looked pretty cool. That infight was okay. Didn't make a lot of sense with the characters. It's kind of weird that a guy would be fighting for something that he's trying to take from somebody else because it's a curse, but he's wanting it for himself, so that didn't make a lot of sense. But of course, throwing Jean Grey in there, I'm sure you were happy to see the old lady from the other X-Men movies.
Well, they had to put at least one other character in here that someone who hasn't read every issue of X-Men and Wolverine knows about, right? I mean, I have no idea who any of these characters are other than Wolverine and Jean Grey.
In the comic books, he went with Shadowcat or Kitty Pryde to Japan, but this was based off the original Wolverine comic books.
Has anyone been shafted in more movie adaptations than Kitty Pryde?
I know, right? She's not a great character in the comic books. They kind of use different characters, like in the cartoon, the '90s cartoon. They used Jubilee as kind of a replacement for her, and then in the X-Men movies, they use kind of Rogue as a replacement for her.
And then in Days of Future Past, they use Wolverine.
Yeah, they switch them around. Instead, it's supposed to be Kitty Pryde going to the future, or the past, sorry. Yeah.
So I thought this movie was pretty good. Nothing to write home about. Just kind of get me a little excited about the third movie. And, I think they're going to go a different route again, and they are going to do a rated R Old Man Logan movie, which I've never read the comic, but I'm originally I was told like it'll super work, and then I'm told like, well, the best parts about that are involving characters that Fox doesn't have the movie rights to.
Well, I'm scared because of what happened with Deadpool, that they're going to try to take it to that direction, to that extreme. I think a Wolverine movie should be rated R for sure, but I'm scared with the people that have it in their hands that they may take it beyond that.
They're definitely not going to be able to be too faithful to that story with just the X-Men characters, so they'd have to make a lot of changes to it.
Oh,
They
definitely,
can still
definitely.
do something though.
Yeah, they can. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith based on these other Wolverine movies, but
also, I don't think I'm going to be alone. I don't think this is a bold statement by any stretch of the imagination. That won't be the last time we see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, right?
I mean,
Does anyone
he's
believe
almost
that?
50 years old, right?
I'd be okay with it if it was the last time.
Oh, sure, I would be okay too, and I wish they would recast. I wish they would cast Tom Hardy as Wolverine, but I don't think it will be the last time. I think that they'll introduce X-23 as the new Wolverine as planned, but that they'll bring Hugh Jackman.
Well,
back.
it's just like in the comic books. They kill off people and then they always come back. Captain America's been killed like 4 times, and he always comes back. So
If they do a 90s movie and they get McAvoy and Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence back, I think he'd come back for that, and that might be the last one.
yeah, we'll have to see.
To me, like I like him in these movies. He just doesn't have to take his shirt off. It's cool. It looked like he did in X-Men 1. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, he did look really ripped in this the Wolverine movie. So
yeah, he reminded me of a young Kyle Reams.
no.
All right, so let's rate this one. I'm gonna give this 3 Tyler Maines out of 5.
Ah, crap. I'm gonna give it 3 Silver Samurais out of 5.
Curtis won't let us down. Curtis is going a different route.
Yep.
Yeah, this isn't terrible, but I didn't care for it. I was just really bored by it. It did look good, like you said, Tony. It looked really good, but I never got into this story. Jean Grey kept showing up, was just weird. I don't know. I was just really bored by this. I'm gonna break the streak here, 2 out of 5.
There you go.
Man.
All right.
It's our last chance.
So before we get out here, both of y'all kind of wanted to talk about some stuff, so maybe we'll hit Kyle's for sure. Maybe we'll get to Curtis's. So Kyle, you tweeted me an article about some Netflix shows. You want to tell me a little bit about what that article talked about?
It was by Stan Lee, right? Was that the article?
TheRealStanLee.com or something like that.
Yeah. I forget what movies. It was a Ghost Rider movie, or not movie, but a series.
Netflix original series for Ghost Rider,
Moon
Blade,
Knight,
and Moon Knight.
Yeah. I was just curious what your thoughts were on that. Honestly, I think for me, I would like to see a Ghost Rider series, maybe.
See, that's the one I don't want to see. That's
really?
the least one. I mean, I hate CGI flames, so I'm just like instantly out. I don't know enough about that character. Like, I know the Ghost Rider. I used to watch that kids show where you write books and stuff. Like, I know about that character, but Ghost Rider, I don't know as much about.
That's a sad childhood.
The first Nick Cage movie I saw.
The Nick Cage version
really
is
terrible.
awful. But just because you've seen a previous version that was awful doesn't mean they can't redo it well.
Yeah, that's true. Some of the Blade stuff was good. I saw those 3 movies. I actually kind of liked the first 2 and didn't really care for the third one. But I think that could be done well in a Netflix movie. And then from what I understand is like Moon Knight kind of changes. His story has changed enough to where maybe they could have their own story and no one would get mad about Moon Knight. Yeah, so I think that's actually kind of the coolest one.
The trouble with Moon Knight, it'll come off as I think it'll come off as a Batman copycat because he's kind of a Batman type character. The only thing is he has multiple personality disorders, so that would throw a wrench in there. And it may be enough, but it may not be enough to be able to separate the two. And I don't think Marvel copying DC is a thing that should be happening. So
I don't think all these characters need their own 13-hour series. I mean, I liked John Bernthal in Daredevil season 2, which I finally finished, but I don't know that I want to see 13 hours of him. Have these characters show up in the existing. We already have 2 really good characters that we like. Keep doing seasons of those and have these characters show up in those shows. What's wrong? Not everyone needs 13 hours dedicated to them.
I could agree to that. I'd be okay with that.
I mean, I agree with it, but also I agree with myself when I say they did these two characters super well. Why couldn't they do these other characters super well?
Well, I mean, they only have so much of a budget. They're not. They're going to stick to 2 of these a year. It's not like more people sign up for Netflix if they do 3 as opposed to 2. They get the same amount of money regardless, basically. So they're only going to be doing 2 a year. I'd rather get more Daredevil and more Jessica Jones and more Luke Cage and have these characters show up. And then if they're interesting, if they pull it off in one of those, then maybe give them 13. But just to start off with a Moon Knight, I don't know anything about Moon Knight. I don't know anything about any of those characters really, except that they made those terrible Nick Cage movies off of one of them. But I don't think they need to do that. Just have them show up, and then if they're good, then maybe do it. But we already have. I mean, I want to see Daredevil season 3, even though I didn't like season 2 as much as you guys did. I listened to half of your spiel, which I was going to rant about, but then you told me you ruined my rant by saying that Kyle fixed the problem that caused me to have to edit last week's X-Men episode for 3.5 hours, and it really should have been 4.5. I thought Tony.
I do feel bad about that.
Kyle, tell Kurtis what I told you to tell him if you want to. If you don't, I'll tell him.
I already told him. He did a pretty good job editing.
Pretty good job.
I agree with that because it really needed another hour, and I sent it to Tony, and I kind of said, hey, maybe you want to take another look at this because it really needed another hour of editing. Because I actually take the product we put out seriously. Tony just whatever. Someone's coughing in the background. No need to edit it out. Someone's talking over each other, whatever. I take a lot of pride in putting out a quality product for people to listen to. I know Tony doesn't so much. That's fine. It's his show. He puts in a good effort every week. He watches all the movies. He brings his game, but he doesn't really care what actually goes out to you guys. I do. So I put 3.5 hours into that for the people who listen to the show, all 22 of them.
How many weeks off have you taken in the last 2 years?
I only had one off this year, and I didn't even really get it off because I spent 3.5 hours editing one of these episodes.
Okay, that's fair. But let me tell you this. It kind of came back to bite me. When you sent me those texts about having to edit that, I was laughing at you. But today I recorded with Andrew. I recorded this week's episode 114, The Nice Guys. And when we finished, he sent it to me, but he didn't send it to a format which I could open it. And I guess he X'd out of it. And I asked him to send it to me again, and he sends it to me in 1 million pieces.
Yeah, I have 702 files in my Dropbox. That's my Dropbox. You got delete that crap out of there.
Okay, I will. Yeah.
My Dropbox is now full and has 702 files in it.
So eventually he did pull it off, but I thought we were going to have our first completely lost episode. I know we've had to re-record some stuff and in the past, but this was I was just going to be there's nothing we can do about it. I'm not going through that again. But anyways, it's up, and hopefully you checked it out. Hopefully Kyle and Kurtis will check it out as well. Those guys are fun. What do we got coming up next week, Kurtis?
We're going to continue the X-Men theme with X-Men Apocalypse, and then we have 2 other movies, The Voices and
Master.
And what?
The Master.
The Master. I knew that. Yes, The Voices and The Master. So we'll be looking.
And those last 2 have what in common?
They both have the and then a word after them.
And so they could be the episode. Could be the title of Seinfeld episodes, but also they're Kurtis picks. So
I thought The Master was your pick.
Negative.
I did want to see it, but I thought you suggested it. Okay.
Nope. All right. So tune in for that. We'll be back. Kyle won't be back. Me and Kyle are going to do Kung Fu Panda trilogy at some point. We got some other things we've been talking about. So Kyle will be back. We're just not sure when. But I appreciate you doing this, Kyle.
Thank
Kurtis,
you.
as always. Kurtis is going to edit the crap out of this episode, so give him some
Hopefully it won't
props.
be as tough this time. Sorry,
great.
Kurtis.
It's going to sound great.
But gotta go, son.
Pay attention.